Hey there folks, welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to talk to you about the whole beef issue. Everything from the statements Trump's made about helping Argentina, as well as the prices of beef, and just the whole aspect of it. So let's get right into it. So right now the US has experienced beef shortage because cattle numbers have fallen to their lowest level in a decade. Feedlot placements are down, packers are running below capacity, new biological threats like the screwworm from Mexico are pressuring ranchers, all while the export demand remains strong. The herd size collapsed, so the national beef cow herd is at its smallest since 2015, following the years of drought in the southern plains. The USDA reports cattle on feed are down 3% year over year, with feedlot placements down 6%. This is not a short-term dip. Economists describe it as a multi-year rebuilding cycle, meaning supply will stay tight for some time. Now there's drought and high feed cost. Prolonged drought forced ranchers to liquidate herds, reducing breed stock. Feed costs remain elevated. Corn right now is around $4.56 a bushel, squeezing feed at margins and slowing herd expansion. There's reduced packing capacity. Tyson just closed a shop and they're closing more, and meatpacking is operating at 82% capacity, down from 89% the previous year. Lower cattle supply means fewer animals to process, tightening downstream beef availability. And of course, there's the biological threat. The New World screwworm, it's a flesh-eating parasite that's emerged in northern Mexico, and it threatens Texas cattle. Mexico has 1,800 plus active cases of the screwworm, and a Texas outbreak could cause billions in losses and further shrink the herd. Now here's the one that will piss you off. There's a strong export demand. Even as US customers cut back slightly due to higher prices, Japan, South Korea, China are increasing imports, and it's for those prime cuts. The weaker dollar makes US beef more competitive globally, pulling supply away from domestic shelves. And I'll get into that more here in a minute. So the result is high record prices and shortages. So retail beef prices are at a record high, averaging $8.74 a pound for choice grade, and packers, retailers report tightening availability of popular cuts. So now, while the Trump administration has not publicly named countries that will supply the new authorized beef imports, there was a particular comment about Argentina, with Trump saying that they were in dire need of our help, this and that. I think that is a big bloating of the true situation. I don't think Argentina is in near as much help as Trump likes to think. He wants it to be perceived that he is helping them, but really Argentina is helping us by us being able to import their beef. But there's a caveat to that. So there's all three major news outlets covering that announcement. The AP News, ABC News, and Reuters report the same thing. The administration is allowing up to 300 metric tons of ground beef to enter the U.S. tariff-free for 90 days, but that has not disclosed the exporting countries. What we do know, the import program covers ground beef only, up to 300 metric tons for 90 days. But that amount, I guess, doesn't even cover 90 days worth of supply. So they're just allowing that window for the imports. The White House says exports agree to a 25% discount in exchange for temporary tariff relief. A reporter asked directly which companies involved. The administration declined to answer. Brazil is unlikely to be a major source because Trump has a 50% tariff on Brazilian beef, though those tariffs are not part of the temporary pause. So Mexico is also complicated due to the screwworm-related imports restrictions, making the large-scale imports from Mexico less likely. So the most probable exports, and this is inferred, not confirmed, would be Canada, historically a major supplier, Tariffs were recently paused for 3 days in a separate action. Australia and New Zealand, large global exports of lean beef used in the U.S. ground beef blends. Argentina and Uruguay, smaller but established exporters of beef to the U.S. Again, none of these have been confirmed by the administration. They're just simply countries that are typically fill the U.S. ground beef shortfalls. Now here's the caveat to Argentina. Chinese customs did reject 22-ton shipment of Argentina beef from the Era beef plant after detecting chloramphenicol, whatever, bad chemical. It's a banned antibiotic, and the incident was officially reported on March 19th of this year. And so what the sources confirm is that the Chinese's General Administration of Customs notified Argentina on March 19th of 2026 that the shipment from Era Beef Perez Milan plant tested positive for the chloramphenicol, the drug banned by livestock production since 1995. The shipment contained 22 tons of that beef, and China immediately suspended imports from that specific plant. Argentina's agricultural authorities launched a traceability investigation and suggested the possibility of false positive or contamination. The suspension currently applies to only that single container and plant, not all Argentina beef exports, but it's something to definitely be suspect about. Why chloramphenicol matters is because it is a prohibited in food animals because it causes serious harmful human health risk, including aplastic anemia, and it's a carcinogen, so it causes cancer. Argentina banned in the U.S. livestock in 1995, which is why the detection triggered an immediate trade response. So it's very concerning that now U.S. wants to import beef from China or from Argentina. So now the question is, why is the U.S. exporting beef even during a domestic shortage? So the answer is pretty simple, and it's economics. So the U.S. exports different types of beef than it imports. So it mainly imports just ground beef, but the U.S. mainly exports high-value muscle cuts, which is ribeye, strip loin, tenderloin. They export it to the wealthy markets like Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. And again, we mainly import lean beef trimmings used for ground beef because U.S. cattle tends to be grain-fed and produces fatty trim. So they mix that lean trim in with fatty trim to give you that various mixes of ground beef. So this mismatch is well documented. Imports are driven by strong demand for lean processed beef, especially for ground beef manufacturing. So even during a shortage, exports and imports don't cancel each other out, or you only want to do imports because you don't want to export because we're short. The exports contracts they're long-term and cannot be easily canceled. U.S. beef exports operate under long-term international contracts. So even when domestic supply tightens, exporters must fulfill those commitments unless government intervenes, and there is no current export restriction. Now here's the big thing. Government rarely interjects, and it's mainly because the exporters, they make more money selling those high quality cuts to those countries because they're willing to pay more for them than we are here domestically. So even though right now steak and ribeye and sirloin and that is like $20 to $25 a pound, they're able to garner more for that exporting to those countries. So if you want to get mad at someone, get mad at the companies because they would rather choose profits than to provide you with those high quality cuts. It's just the way, this is market, free market. So export markets are strategically important. Japan, South Korea, Mexico, Canada, Hong Kong, Taiwan, they all remain major buyers and they're all willing to pay. So even in 2026, exports continue because they are a critical part of the U.S. cattle industry revenue. Exports have declined due to the tight supply, but they have not stopped and they will not stop. So made me think, if I was wanting to invest in stock of something, I'm thinking beef exports. So beef futures would probably be something that you could invest in now, and probably up through next year, even probably all through next year, you'd probably do pretty well. So I'm going to look into that myself. I'm not a financial advisor, so that's just what I'm doing. You can do what you want, but look up, and you're at your own risk there. So the U.S. cattle herd is historically small, but the processors still need the lean beef. So that's why we're looking at importing. The U.S. herd has contracted sharply, and domestic lean trim is scarce. This is why we're importing need is rising. The USDA 2026 beef import forecast to 5.575 billion, up 3% year over year. Imports hit 17.3% of the total U.S. beef supply, an all-time high. So imports fill a specific gap, lean beef for ground products, not the premium cuts exported overseas. And again, because of the issue with that contamination from Argentina, ground beef would be where it's at. And so if you're wanting to stay safe, I would recommend staying away from ground beef. But again, steaks and other non-processed beef would probably be your safest bet. So high domestic prices actually encourage exports. When U.S. beef prices rise, foreign buyers often still pay more for premium cuts. Exporters, they earn higher margins selling abroad than selling domestically. This is why the exports continue even when supplies are tight. So some export data spikes are reporting errors, not actual new shipments. A recent USDA report showed a sudden spike in export sales, but USDA later admitted the numbers were months of backlog data and not the new exports. So this created confusion, but it did not indicate a surge in real-time exports. So the bottom line, the U.S. exports beef because it exports premium cuts and imports lean cuts, lean trim. So they're different products. So export contracts and global market commitments continue regardless of domestic supply. Imports fill a specific processing need that domestic cattle cannot meet. They're too fat. So high-value export markets remain profitable even during shortages. The U.S. beef system is not a simple keep beef here for short model. It's a globally integrated chain with different products following in different directions. So it's a complex market, but it is, once you break it down, it's pretty simple to understand, is that we export fatty beef, and we import in lean beef. Trump wants to take credit for trying to help Argentina out when actually he's just helping us out. And he's just trying to bloat his own ego there. Trying to pat himself on the back. There's nothing there. Anyway, if you like this content, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for upcoming videos, and until next time.